And we're back here on Open. The Fortune Society is a not-for-profit organization helping formerly incarcerated individuals successfully re-enter the community after their release from prison, and also promotes alternatives to incarceration, thus strengthening the fabric of our community. Joining us now to tell us a little bit more and some details is Stanley Richards, who's the Executive Vice President of the Fortune Society. Stanley, good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, good to talk to you. And I know this has been a hot button issue, especially here at the borough, across New York City, the closing of Rikers Island. Yes. And I know you are dead set in favor of that.
Absolutely. You know, as a formerly incarcerated man, I'm born and raised in the Bronx. I live in the Bronx now. I come from Soundview. There was one point in my life where I thought jail and prison was my only option. That's what I saw in Soundview. And when I went to prison, my last incarceration, I went to school, got my GED, went to college, graduated, and I realized that my circumstance was just my circumstances. There's reality of the environment that I lived in, but that prison didn't have to be my only option, that I can change my life. And Fortune Society was the organization that gave me an opportunity and to change my life. And I now know that incarceration is not the way to safer community, healthier communities. That's the way that we diminish our communities. And so I stand tall and I stand proud to say we need to close Rikers Island, we need to go to a smaller system, and we need to reinvest those resources back into the communities that are hardest hit.
So we know that closing Rikers Island is one thing that's being talked about, but then also there's the talk about borough-based jails, right? And having one here in the borough. How do you feel about having borough-based jails?
Well, I think if the option is reducing the number of beds we have, and that option includes building in the borough-based facilities, I think that's a way to go for two reasons. One is that by having borough-based facilities, family members who have people who are incarcerated could easily access their family members. Right now, it takes almost a whole day to travel out to Rikers Island, which is isolated, far away from public oversight and public scrutiny, to visit for 1 hour. By having borough-based jails, lawyers can get to see their clients, family members can get to see their loved ones, and people have access to the resources in the communities. The second thing we're doing is reducing the number of beds. Right now at Rikers, we have a little over 7,000 people detained in our system, but we have something like 11,000, 12,000 beds. So what we're talking about is demolishing Rikers Island, reducing those beds to something like 4,000 or 3,000, so that we have a much smaller system, that we can never go back and fill up the 11,000 beds, and have a more humane criminal justice system.
And when you talk about your work, I mean, you talk about being a formerly incarcerated individual and how the Fortune Society actually helped you out. Now you're in a place where you are, you're standing as the Executive Vice President now. Give a little bit about the work that the Fortune Society does and how it impacted you.
Oh, well, Fortune, we see about 7,000 men and women each year. And what we have is an open door policy. People just can walk in if you have a criminal history, and you get access to a range of services: mental health counseling, substance abuse counseling, job placement, job training, education, family reunification, alternatives to incarceration. We provided a one-stop shopping model for people who have a criminal history and want to change their lives around. I know for me, there was a time in my life where I didn't believe anything good would come of my life, where I did not see the beauty in me, but others seen it. And so at Fortune, part of our job for the men and women that walk through our doors is to see who they could be, not what they did, not how much time they served, but who they could be, and to hold that image of the beauty of who they could be until they begin to see it for themselves and they begin to believe it. Because the transformation for me was education, when it told me all the messages that I heard, that I would end up dead, that I wasn't worth anything. Those were all lies. And I understood them to be lies once I got educated. So at Fortune, we try to do that by having interactions and to showing them that 50% of our staff are men and women who are involved in the criminal justice system.
And you got several programs. Of course, we got a few, but I want to talk about some of the programs that you have for people who are incarcerated, because many times it's said that when you're coming back out, right, in that whole reentry, there's that whole thing of recidivism.
Yes.
And how do you avoid that? And it's often said you got to have programs. And I know you've got some programs, so let's go through a few of the programs you have.
Absolutely. Two or three of the main programs when you talk about people coming home is they need to have a place to live, and they need to have a job, and they need to be clean and sober. So at Fortune, we provide those services. We have a range of housing options for people, from emergency housing, transitional housing to permanent housing, that there's a model, a continuation of engaging people through each of those models. We have a job placement program where we place over 300 people in jobs that pay $14, $15, $16 an hour in some jobs. And so we provide the tools that people need to stabilize their lives. And then when it comes to recovery, we provide mental health counseling. We have a licensed outpatient mental health program and a licensed outpatient substance abuse treatment program. So we help people stay clean and sober.
And you impact a lot of lives. You guys do some great work, and I know there's going to be also a special celebration. You got your annual gala coming up.
Yes, yes, yes. Hope and Justice on October 29th. And it's going to be honoring Josh Steiner, who is a Bloomberg employee, was a Bloomberg employee, and he's just been a real partner in helping us provide employment opportunities for people incarcerated. I'm going to be honored, and another colleague of mine, Nancy Lopez, is going to be honored. So it's an opportunity for people to see the work that we do, and we get the chance to celebrate all the partnerships that we have. And so we invite people to come and join us and be part of it.
There's a lot of myths and stereotypes when it comes to dealing with those who've been incarcerated. Break down a couple for me. What do you find is the most prevalent myth and stereotype that you find?
That people don't want to change their lives. Like, people enjoy living the life of cycling in and out of prison. And I can tell you that's an absolute lie. There wasn't one time when I got released from prison I said, I can't wait to go back. But what does happen, I said, I hope I don't come back. And the minute I get out, I run into barrier after barrier. I run into a system that never lets me forget the crime that I committed or the time that I served. It never lets me move forward. And so at Fortune, one of the things we do is say, the crime is what you did, it's not who you are. None of us are ever the worst thing and want to be measured by the worst thing we've ever done in our life. And so we work to really tell people that people who are in the system are our brothers and our sisters, are our neighbors, are our friends, and we ought to be showing them the way back from incarceration, not the way back to incarceration, the way back to our communities.
How long did it take you to get from that place of really overcoming the stereotype? Because, you know, this paper speaks a lot, right?
Yes.
It has a record, and then you're trying to get re-entered into society. But as you said, you had those barriers. Yeah. How long did it take you before you finally could get free from that?
It was when I went to school, and when I went to school out in society, my teachers would say I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't good enough, and I began to believe those messages. And so I started living the life on the streets, involved in gangs, selling drugs, robbing. But when I went to prison, I went to school, and I was getting A's, and I was getting B's. I was saying, wait a minute, all of those stories I heard about who I am were lies. And then the power of my life went from, it's the police in my community, it's the circumstances of my poverty, it's all these things that are drivers of my incarceration. And I said, that's not true. The drivers of my incarceration is me. So first I had to take accountability and ownership of the harm I caused to my community, and then I had to take ownership of the power that I have to change my life and to never go back. And then I dedicated my life to showing people the beauty in themselves, because I never want anybody to feel like I felt when I cycled in and out of jail. Like I felt hopeless, like I felt like people didn't care, like I felt like I wasn't worth anything. And what I've done is say, no, those are all lies. And so my work, our work at Fortune Society every day is to say to the men and women who walk through the door, the crime is what you did, it is not who you are. Who you are is determined by the work that you want to put into it and the vision you see for yourself. Now let's work on where you want to go, not where you've been.
Excellent, Stanley, excellent. And I want to tell people that you have the opportunity to connect with the Hope and Justice Fortune Society's annual gala. We'll talk about that in just a few seconds. We'll give them the time and how you can actually take part in that.
Yes.
But before you leave, you just get 30 seconds. Is there anything else you want people to know?
I want people to know that Fortune Society is an amazing organization, and we invite people to come and to see what we're doing, support our work. Our work is about building lives. And we have a moment in time in New York City to fundamentally change our criminal justice system, and we're asking people to join us to close Rikers Island. Let's build a smaller system, let's build a humane system, let's build a system that doesn't rely on mass incarceration to increase community safety.
All right, Stanley Richards, Executive Vice President of the Fortune Society. Thank you. Keep
Thank
up the
you.
great work. Awesome story as well.
Thank you.
All right, listen. Hope and Justice, the Fortune Society's annual gala, is actually taking place. It's on Tuesday, October 29th from 6 p.m. until 9 at Gotham Hall. And if you don't know where Gotham Hall is, that's 1356 Broadway. For more information, you can visit their website on fortunesociety.org or at Instagram at Fortune Society. We are taking a quick break, but we do have more open, so please don't go anywhere. More open coming up right after this.